So today I wish to say something about arguing. I see people arguing, and then they become very tense and hostile and violent, which I think it's out of date today. We have a tongue which we can use, and to be honest, I really enjoy a nice argument because for me the art of life is to find a solution where all arguing parties can agree on, right? So on the most pleasurable argument I had in the recent past, was my biological father. And I would like to tell you about the argument, how it went on, because obviously he says, "Oh, you and reading your Bible, it's just getting on my nerves, don't talk about it anymore to me." I said, "Well, then let me just ask one more question." He says, "Come on then." I said, "What do you think about the commandments of Moses? I mean, if there's only one God and we shall not make a picture, does it make sense or not? Not stealing and longing for someone else's possession, must it make sense or not? Does it make sense to honor the parents? Does it make sense not to break someone else's marriage?" And my father says, "Oh, come on, stop talking. I know the Bible inside. I know the 10 Commandments." I said, "So you are believing?" "No," he says, "I am an atheist. Humans are bad and there is nobody who thinks for another one. They all think for themselves in some way or the other. And you are just too good, and just be a bit more hard." And I say, "That, you know the 10 Commandments?" He says, "Yes." You know why I know them? Not because I believe or something. He says, I used them as a toilet tissue because we were so poor we have nothing else. And because I was bored sitting there, I read it. And this is my suggestion for everyone else who's listening to this conversation. Read it. Read it for yourself and make your own opinion. So I said, "That, whilst you know the commandments, do you think they are right?" And he says, "Yes, I would sign up for your commandments of Moses." I said, "Well, in this case, you're very closer to God than some believers." And he looked at me stern and says, What Bible?" I said, "You know what? If you would read the Bible, blessed are the ones which work for peace." But I don't understand why people which are believing, arguing who's the favorite of the one God. I mean, look at Jerusalem. There's the Muslims, the Jews, the Christians still arguing about it. And I tell you something what I did in the last 2 years. And he says, "What did you do?" I said, the first one I contacted actually me, was a Brahmin from India. And they are not material. If you would travel to India, you would see there are Sikhs which are caring for other people, feed them. They are generous, and for them material things are not the first thing. And the Western part would say they are praying to idols or to objects. No, they don't. They are very generous, very peaceful. I don't think anyone in Europe would be living as peaceful and that close together, as narrowed as they are. They are living in the middle of the street and they don't fight that much. So they are very peaceful, and there is something into them that they are not just material, because obviously they feed each other, they help each other. So from that point of view, so I wrote to this Brahmin, and he said, and asked him, "What do you think about building, overhaul Jerusalem and altar according to Moses? Nothing from human hand made on it, and each believer could believe it's his special place to worship the one God." And when you ask about the name, I mean, when you say Krishna, Christ of Nazareth, it's agreeing with everyone else, so that is fine, because God and Christ are living forever. And he says, "Yeah, I'm up for it." Then I contacted a Jew, because in the Bible it was written, "Don't forget the Levites." And this Jew, astonishingly, was saying, "I am up for it." Because I told him, I tried to be a bit sneaky, and I said, "Do you know, in Exodus is written after the 10 Commandments, build me an altar from earth, nothing human hand made on it. What do you think if we would build that, overhaul Jerusalem to honor your God?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm up for it." So I thought that is a good idea. And I have many Muslim friends which are actually, and that's what many people don't know, they respect Moses and they respect Jesus, and Muslim means surrendering to God, right? So, and all of them said, yes, that is a very good idea, because in the scriptures Jesus says, I will return if there's no stone left on top of each other in Jerusalem. So that was an Allah means love, and love means you do something for someone else. And they all agreed. So then I started writing to the Vatican. And believe me or not, they didn't answer. And then I called one of the regional priests, and he says, I don't need to contribute to build this altar, because I see Jesus, he speaks to me, and I don't need to do anything about it. And I just thought, is that love for each other? Is that caring? Didn't God create the earth as a whole? And if you're a believer, you are believing in Christ in one or the other way. The rainbow has different colors. It's just a different approach. I thought, how can one be so ignorant about the fact? And actually, if you understand the commandments of Moses, God created the earth in 6 days. It's his earth, and he gifted it to Jesus Christ. And you are possessing the land which is belonging to Christ, and you are representing him. Why do you, if you see the times now, not call him back? Do you believe in what you're preaching? And my dad looked at me and he says, and was not really happy about what I said. And then he said, and I said, I mean, for you as atheists, don't you agree that there were no more wars in the name of the one God, and murdered, innocent people have been murdered, that it should be in the interest of an atheist to build this altar, take all the buildings down, make peace. And to be honest, I'm believing so much that they didn't lie. They are not hypocrites. If they don't return, you know, it's not an issue. You don't need to be scared. I mean, if one person did try to attempt murdering my child, I would say to my child, let's walk away, we don't return there. So if there's no God and no Jesus coming back, don't be worried about it, because at least all the misbelievers who still murder, who are still violent, will not have a chance to stand against all the believers. So the times of paradise coming here on earth can be shortened. And I'm pretty sure that the Lord will visit us. So, and my dad looked at me and he says, I don't know, being genius and being absolutely crazy is very close to each other. And I am not sure what you are. I said, yeah, Dad, you know what? I tried to get a sick note from authorities that I'm crazy, because I've got a good insurance, I could be retired and I could enjoy life, but they didn't give it to me because I don't hear voices and I don't see the pictures. And he says, well, I don't know what to say. So now I'm talking about the things which I did with the covenant. I decided, once you come to that stage where you're actually wakening up, sort of thing, that is how Buddha came, and Siddhartha, who was sitting there, and he became a saint. I said, we've had that, didn't work. So I write to the governance, and I wrote petitions, which are based upon reading the Bible. And now I would like to involve you in that thinking, whether you're atheists or believers. Right? I decided there was a very, very wise man who hasn't had a computer, which was called Solomon. And he managed, with 10% taxes, to keep the people in peace and happiness. All had the houses and gardens described in the Bible. And I just think, why can't we repeat that these days? I mean, 10% tax worldwide would be a very fair system. At the moment, there are hidden taxes up to 80% to me, and I'm working like mad for social maggots, which are able to work for themselves. And I don't want to feed the social maggots. So put 10%. Who's honest is honest. and who's dishonest is dishonest, but there are many generous people around. And if I had so much money, of course I would help someone in need. But I would like to have the freedom to choose whom I want to help. And now something else regards the tax. If two people argue, the third one is always happy. Imagine you are super rich. You have businesses, each finger represents a business all over the world. Then you say, oh, this one, I will insure this one, and then I will cut it off the next day. And when I cut it off, I will buy before that. That is cheap. Now nobody's interested in that one. I buy that cheap, then I will say it and make this one strong. Then you go to your best friend and say, this finger is going to be cut on the day X, blah, blah, blah. Give me a little bit of a bribe for that. Corruption. So you get something, finger is cut. Is insured, you get the first money, you sell that one, get the second money, and you have the bribe from your friend. And then you decide, I'm continuing that game because each arm is representing a country. We've seen it in Greece. If you throw so much stock market, the government can go burst. So how can you control the money in the countries? By, for instance, putting all British stock markets, things on the market, that the government is forced to buy with taxpayers' money all the stock markets for that, to stabilize the currency. And then you're very clever, you send managers out, they say, oh, if you don't want unemployed tomorrow by 10,000, and you are not giving me support, then I need to close my business. So the government puts again their hands in taxpayers' money and puts it out. And I just think, you know what, this is silly. This is silly because obviously I'm ripped off from up, from bottom, from there. I need to pay for social services and I don't want to be ripped off. Working must be worthwhile because so far the whole system was built upon that. Because if you have debts, but assets, right? Assets different, something than debts. If you have a lot of debts, or you put your savings in the bank account to pay for yourself in bad times, you know what happens with the inflation? The possessions in money-wise are halved and the debts are halved as well. Who's losing out? Who's not having the possessions? So and that's like a monopoly game. You tread on someone's and you can't pay and you're enslaved for the money. And we are all in one or the other way enslaved for the money. But the Bible says you can either serve God or you can serve the money. So to sort this mess out, I don't think we have the intelligence to do that. Or the government, world government, who understands it's not about me, my country. They are representing a mass of people. And this world doesn't have borders because I think taxpayers' money is really wasted on weapons. As I said, I would put anyone in psychiatric unit who's telling me I want to have an arsenal of weapons to this. That is all the border forces. That is not needed. We are creating each other jobs for security, for human beings, for the sake of creating a job to get money. Rather than using our brain and think the most valuable each of us is having is the lifetime. And how can we utilize our lifetime the best so that nobody needs to work? Let's use the machines. Let's create social security, for instance, for children. They can't do anything for their parents, but if they are raised with parents who smoke pot, drink alcohol, and use them as money picks to get their social support, they think that is normal. Or if parents tell their children, go and beg with them, they all have money, instead of teaching them go and work. This is the world we are living in, unfortunately. Or parents tell their children, let the money work for you, let them work for you, and you just rip them off. This is the world we are unfortunately living in. And by reading the Bible, I understood the meaning of the sentence, blessed are the ones which work for peace. The law system, a lawyer earns his money by keeping people arguing very long, because that is feeding his family. And we all need to feed our families. What if the law system would change into something like someone comes with a dog and puts it in microwaves and wants millions of the company to say, hang on, get lost. That is unreasonable to ask for such amount of money for that. Because at the moment, in many countries, the law system is in the way that it's not right, and getting right is the same. It's about winning the case, twisting the word of the mouth in someone else. Instead, understanding the meaning, what did this person want to say? Because the human nature is actually that we feel much more comfortable in laughing, joking, happy societies, rather than people arguing. We are always feeling a little bit tense and uncomfortable in that. So why are we exposing ourselves in these arguments? I'm just asking for the common sense. So by reading the Bible, I understood as well the meaning that Jesus says, I will return if there's no stone left on top of each other in Jerusalem. And before he was crucified, there was a woman anointing him with very expensive oil. And his disciples, which he had chosen, say, why are you putting that on you? You could have sold it and done so much charity. And Jesus said, you know what? I am with you here, but one day this deed will be discussed worldwide. And I tell you, this time is overripe. We have done so much help, and people don't understand what it means to be a parent. Being a parent means taking responsibility to grow up a child with morals. Yeah? And if I have sex, I'm not having children to serve me. I am serving the children. And serving the children means to discipline if they're doing wrong. Are there many parents which understand the things? If I see people in general as a society, they would take care of children which are neglected. And I grew up in a very intact village with a complete, perfect society. It's like in paradise. I grew up like in paradise, I always say. But seeing and looking at that, when I see George Floyd, I'm just thinking, you know what? How can someone film a murder without intervening and saying, stop, you lost control. You're misusing your authorities. And then spread that in the news, and then look at the demonstration and the riots, rather than trying to understand. So if the government locks us down because they acknowledge we don't have the facilities in the hospitals at the moment, because the social care system is on the edge, then I need to support the governance and say, they had the interest of the humans in mind, not controlling them. Yes, the business, but what is more worse? Money or a human life? Unfortunately, paperwork is more important than human life these days. Think about it. Defending myself, what am I doing, becomes an issue. Rather than trust, why don't we trust each other and think this person? I grew up where the keys were in the car, which was standing on the street, and the doors were never locked. Children, me, 3 years of age, could walk on my own into the nursery. There was no issue. There was no such thing, because society was functioning and we were working as a community. And who cares really about his neighbor, himself? These are questions which I want to ask. And if you are honest, if you're very, very honest with yourself, the majority at one time in life to look after is 7 humans. You can't have more people close. They are all distant. Of course, you will not lose friends and not forget about them when they were with you. But you decide at each period of your lifetime whom you want to spend your time with. And that are not more than 7. They can influence you and you can influence them. And that is a question. And there's a saying, tell me with whom you are, and I tell you who you are. So there is always a little bit of a saying, and these are the groups. And then when groups starting fighting with each other, rather than trying to understand where they come from, what is their common background and how they are working, this would make more peace. Do you understand what I want to say? Gave you a lot to think today. God bless. And hopefully you do understand that we need to build an altar according to Moses, peacefully, by buying all the objects, because we can't long for someone else's possessions. And this earth belongs to Jesus Christ, because it was given from God to him. And anyone who possesses Jerusalem and builds a house on this place is actually stealing from God. Read the story of Ananias, read about the jealousy which happened to Stephanos. I can tell you everything about it because I just read it myself, and it shows me, if you read the Revelation, that humanity is having the choice. They either destroy themselves in wars, or they learn how to make peace. And the first peaceful solution which I can understand in Jerusalem is doing that, and then taking it forward from there, because if Jesus really returns, as I believe so he would, because he didn't lie and he is honest, that would be more than enough, because I can't do as a doctor today what he could do at that so many years ago, what his disciples did so many years ago. If it's a fake story, at least we created peace amongst the believers, that they don't murder each other. And the atheists will be convinced if there's someone turning up like Jesus who can do the miracles like him, and they will return to believe. And the world will be nice. And I think and I have hope. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.